For years, eggs were treated with suspicion in diabetes care. They were rationed and restricted, eyed with concern at every breakfast, because conventional wisdom held that their cholesterol content would worsen cardiovascular risk in diabetics who already carry elevated risk to begin with. The conversation, however, has evolved significantly over time. Research has clarified the relationship between dietary and blood cholesterol in ways that are very different from what was once believed. Studies looking at the effects of eggs on people with diabetes have uncovered patterns that are far more reassuring than concerning, showing that the role of eggs in supporting blood sugar control, rather than undermining it, has become much clearer. I want to walk you through what the evidence actually says about eggs and diabetes today. We will cover how to eat eggs in ways that support your blood sugar management, as well as what every diabetic deserves to know about this ordinary, affordable, and accessible food that has been a foundation of human nutrition for generations. Let me start with what eggs actually are nutritionally, because the big picture is more remarkable than most people realize. A single large egg contains roughly 70 to 80 calories, 6 to 7 grams of high-quality protein, about 5 grams of fat, and remarkably less than 1 gram of carbohydrate. That carbohydrate number is the first thing that should catch your attention as a diabetic. An egg is essentially a carbohydrate-free food, meaning it produces a minimal direct effect on blood sugar. Beyond these basics, eggs contain a wide range of nutrients that are difficult to get in such high concentration from other foods. Choline, which is essential for brain health and liver function, is found in high amounts inside egg yolks. Lutein and zeaxanthin, the pigments that protect your eyes, as we have discussed in other conversations, are present in egg yolks in highly bioavailable forms. Vitamin D, which most people living modern indoor lives are deficient in, is also present here. Eggs are one of the very few natural food sources for it. Vitamin B12, essential for nerve function and particularly crucial for diabetics who may face nerve complications, is concentrated in eggs as well. Selenium, iodine, riboflavin, and many other vital nutrients are also packed inside. For a food that costs very little and is readily available almost everywhere in the world, the nutritional value of an egg is extraordinary. Now let me address the question that has caused so much confusion over the years. What about the cholesterol in eggs? A large egg contains about 180 to 200 milligrams of cholesterol, almost all of it situated in the yolk. For many years, this was considered a massive problem, particularly for diabetics whose cardiovascular risk is already elevated. Patients were told to limit eggs to 1 or 2 per week, to throw away the yolks and eat only the whites, or to avoid eggs entirely. Research has since clarified that this concern was largely misplaced. For most people, the cholesterol you eat has a relatively small effect on the cholesterol in your blood. Your liver produces most of the cholesterol in your body, and it dynamically adjusts its production based on what you consume. When you eat more dietary cholesterol, your liver simply makes less, and when you eat less, your liver makes more. The result is that, for most individuals, dietary cholesterol from foods like eggs does not significantly raise blood cholesterol levels. This does not mean cholesterol does not matter, it certainly does. But the cholesterol in your blood is influenced far more by factors like saturated fat in your diet, your overall eating patterns, your physical activity, your weight, and your genetics than by the cholesterol in the eggs you ate this morning. For diabetics specifically, a number of studies have examined the effects of regular egg consumption on cardiovascular outcomes. The findings have historically been mixed, with some older studies suggesting concern and others showing that moderate egg consumption is fine. However, the most recent and rigorous research generally supports that regular egg consumption, within the context of an otherwise healthy diet, does not produce the cardiovascular harm that was once feared. Current dietary guidelines from many major health organizations no longer place strict limits on egg consumption for healthy people, and for diabetics, the recommendation has become much more individualized. The blanket prohibition on eggs has largely been replaced with a more thoughtful conversation about how eggs fit into your broader dietary patterns. That said, I want to be honest about one important nuance. Some studies have suggested that diabetics may be slightly more sensitive to dietary cholesterol than non-diabetics, leading the most cautious clinicians to still recommend moderation rather than unlimited consumption. The general guidance for most diabetics is that up to 1 egg per day, as part of an overall healthy diet, is generally fine. Higher consumption may be acceptable for certain patients, but it should always be discussed on an individual basis. Now, let me get to the heart of why eggs are actually helpful for diabetics, because the picture is genuinely positive once you understand it. The first reason is their high protein content paired with almost no carbohydrates. Protein has a minimal effect on blood sugar, slows the absorption of any carbohydrates eaten alongside it, and significantly increases satiety. For a diabetic looking for foods that provide solid nutrition without spiking blood sugar, eggs are nearly ideal. The second reason is the exceptional satiety they provide. Multiple studies have shown that breakfast containing eggs produce greater fullness and satisfaction than breakfasts of equal calories built around carbohydrates like cereal or toast. This means that people who eat eggs for breakfast tend to eat less throughout the rest of the day, which directly supports weight management. Weight management, particularly the reduction of belly fat, is one of the most important factors in improving blood sugar control in type 2 diabetes. The third reason is the effect eggs have on the overall blood sugar response of a meal. When eggs are eaten with carbohydrates, the blood sugar spike from those carbohydrates is reduced compared to eating the carbohydrates alone. This occurs because the protein and healthy fats in the eggs slow down digestion and absorption. A breakfast of eggs and toast produces a much more moderate blood sugar response than the same toast eaten alone, even though the total calorie count may be higher. The fourth reason is the choline content, which actively supports liver health. Fatty liver disease is extremely common in people with type 2 diabetes and directly contributes to insulin resistance. Adequate choline intake supports the liver's ability to process fats properly, which may help reduce the fatty liver complications that make diabetes management harder. The fifth reason involves lutein and zeaxanthin, which support eye health. Diabetics are at a significantly elevated risk for diabetic retinopathy and other eye complications over time. The eye protective pigments found in egg yolks contribute to the broader nutritional support your eyes desperately need. The sixth reason is the presence of vitamin D, which plays a direct role in insulin function. Vitamin D deficiency is widespread and consistently associated with poorer blood sugar control. Eggs are one of the few natural food sources of vitamin D, helping contribute to a better vitamin D status as part of an overall healthy diet. The seventh reason comes down to affordability and accessibility. For diabetics managing the heavy costs of their condition, including medications, monitoring supplies, and broader dietary adjustments, eggs are one of the most affordable high-quality protein sources available almost anywhere. Now let me walk you through how to prepare eggs as a diabetic because preparation matters just as much as the food itself. The first principle is that how you cook your eggs matters far less than what you eat with them. An egg cooked in butter is fundamentally a healthful food, an egg cooked in oil is fundamentally a healthful food, and an egg cooked dry in a non-stick pan is fundamentally a healthful food. The cooking method is entirely secondary to the broader picture of the meal and your overall diet. That said, some cooking methods are a bit gentler than others. Boiled, poached, or scrambled eggs made with a small amount of healthy oil are generally great choices. Eggs cooked at very high heat in large amounts of oil or butter add extra calories that you may or may not want. So the principle is simply to cook them in ways that align with your overall dietary goals. The second principle is that what you eat alongside your eggs matters enormously. This is one of the most important practical points I can give you as a diabetic. A breakfast of eggs alone produces a minimal blood sugar response, and a breakfast of eggs with vegetables produces a minimal response while adding valuable fiber and nutrients. A breakfast of eggs with whole grain toast produces a moderate response that works well for many diabetics. Conversely, a breakfast of eggs served with white toast, hash browns, jam, and orange juice produces a massive blood sugar spike due to all the refined carbohydrates surrounding the plate, even though the eggs themselves contributed nothing to that spike. The eggs are not the problem in that last breakfast. The refined carbohydrates and added sugars are. Yet many diabetics have been told to avoid the eggs while continuing to eat the rest, which is the exact opposite of what would actually help them. The third principle is to focus on combinations that naturally support blood sugar control. Eggs and vegetables are a classic, excellent combination. Think an omelet loaded with spinach, peppers, onions, and mushrooms, scrambled eggs with sautéed greens, or a vegetable frittata. These meals are essentially carbohydrate-free, packed with nutrients, highly satisfying, and produce a minimal impact on blood sugar. Eggs and avocado are another fantastic combination, as the healthy fats in avocado complement the protein in eggs while keeping blood sugar flat. Eggs served with a moderate amount of whole grain bread or complex carbohydrates can also work well for diabetics who tolerate some morning carbohydrates, as the eggs slow down absorption for a gentler glucose response. Additionally, pairing eggs with beans, as seen in traditional Mexican-style breakfasts, combines two high-quality protein sources with natural fiber for sustained energy without dramatic spikes. The fourth principle is to be cautious about additions that can quietly transform an egg meal into a blood sugar nightmare. Bacon and sausage are processed meats associated with cardiovascular and metabolic concerns, while hash browns or home fries are fried starches that cause significant blood sugar spikes. Pancakes, waffles, sugary jams, fruit juices, and sweetened coffees turn a simple meal into a flood of refined flour and sugar. The classic restaurant breakfast pattern of placing eggs in the middle of these high-carb staples is much more problematic for diabetics than the eggs themselves. Building your egg meals around vegetables, healthy fats, and modest amounts of fiber-rich foods produces a far better result than standard fast food or diner options. Let me give you a few specific practical examples of egg meals that work exceptionally well for diabetes management. A vegetable omelet made with 2 or 3 eggs filled with spinach, mushrooms, onions, and a touch of cheese, paired with a small side of fresh berries if you want fruit, is a nearly perfect diabetic breakfast. Scrambled eggs with sautéed vegetables served alongside a single slice of whole grain bread and avocado nicely combines protein, healthy fats, fiber, and a controlled amount of complex carbohydrates. Hard-boiled eggs eaten as a snack with a handful of nuts or a piece of fruit are portable, require zero prep in the moment, and provide sustained energy without blood sugar swings. A baked frittata packed with vegetables and a bit of cheese can be made in advance and eaten throughout the week, offering one of the most practical strategies for busy individuals who need quick, healthy meals. Poaching an egg to top a warm vegetable soup creates a light, low-carbohydrate meal that remains incredibly satisfying, while pairing eggs with beans, salsa, and a slice of avocado delivers a substantial, blood sugar-friendly dish. These are simply examples illustrating the core rule: surround your eggs with vegetables, healthy fats, and modest fiber rather than refined starches and processed breakfast meats. I want to address a few specific questions that frequently come up in these discussions. First, what about eating only egg whites? For many years, diabetics were advised to eat egg whites and discard the yolks to avoid cholesterol, but current science shows this is generally unnecessary and potentially counterproductive for most people. The yolk contains the vast majority of the egg's nutrients, including choline, vitamin D, lutein, and zeaxanthin. Throwing away the yolk strips away most of the nutritional value while leaving behind only the protein. For most diabetics, eating whole eggs in moderation is far preferable to eating just whites, though egg whites remain a reasonable option if you have specific cardiovascular risks or explicit medical guidance from your physician. The decision between whole eggs and whites should ultimately be a personalized conversation with your primary care team. Second, how many eggs per day or week is actually appropriate? Current evidence supports that up to 1 whole egg per day is generally fine for most diabetics within an overall healthy diet. Some studies have looked at higher consumption without finding harm, while some cautious clinicians still prefer lower targets. The honest answer is that the right amount depends entirely on your personal health profile, diet, and cardiovascular risk, so discuss this with your doctor and use your routine blood work to guide adjustments. Third, what about the timing of egg consumption? Eggs can be eaten at any time of the day. While breakfast is traditional, and a protein-rich start can help stabilize blood sugar across the entire morning, eggs work just as well for lunch, dinner, or a quick snack. The core principle is simply integrating them into your daily eating pattern in a way that fits your routine. Fourth, does the type of egg matter? Conventional, organic, free-range, omega-3, enriched and pastured eggs all provide the same foundational nutrition with slight variations. Pastured and omega-3 enriched eggs may contain slightly higher levels of beneficial fatty acids, while organic eggs come from hens raised on organic feed without certain medications. The choice between them comes down to personal preference, budget, and values surrounding animal welfare. From a strict diabetes management standpoint, any standard egg is a great choice. Fifth, what about hyper-responders to dietary cholesterol? Some individuals experience a meaningful rise in blood cholesterol when eating foods high in dietary cholesterol. While this affects a minority of the population, it is more common than previously thought. If regular blood work shows your cholesterol numbers rise when eating more eggs and drop when eating fewer, that is valuable data to discuss with your provider, even though it does not apply to most people. I want to take a moment to address a few common myths and misconceptions surrounding eggs and diabetes. The first myth is that diabetics should avoid eggs entirely, which is no longer supported by modern evidence. The second myth is that egg yolks are the enemy, when in reality they hold most of the essential nutrients your body needs. The third myth is that eggs cause blood sugar spikes, which is false because eggs contain virtually no carbohydrates. The spikes come from the refined starches eaten alongside them. The fourth myth is that eating eggs increases the risk of developing diabetes itself, but current scientific consensus shows that moderate egg consumption is not a significant risk factor compared to your overall dietary pattern. Finally, the fifth myth is that eggs can only be eaten in the morning when they are equally effective for blood sugar control at lunch, dinner, or snack time. If this breakdown helped you, please share it with someone in your life who is managing diabetes, a spouse, a parent, or a friend who has been avoiding eggs due to advice given decades ago. Information matters most when it travels, so tell me in the comments if you eat eggs regularly, what recipes work for you, or if this changed your perspective. The community in those comments helps more people than you may realize. Before I let you go, consider one final thought. The history of nutrition advice is full of major reversals. Foods that were demonized for decades have been rehabilitated, while foods once promoted as health miracles have proven to be far more complicated. The egg sits at the center of this history, and its evolution in diabetes care reflects our growing understanding of how food interacts with chronic disease. The main takeaway for diabetics is not that eggs are a magical cure, but that nutrition is far more nuanced than simple, rigid rules. A patient who avoids eggs only to eat refined carbohydrates and processed meats instead is far worse off than someone who enjoys whole eggs as part of a thoughtful eating plan. The single food item matters much less than the overall pattern it belongs to. Focus on building your meals around vegetables, healthy proteins, quality fats, and fiber-rich complex carbohydrates while remaining skeptical of overly simple forbidden food rules. Pay close attention to how your body responds through regular blood sugar monitoring and collaborate with a doctor or dietitian to personalize your plan. Embrace affordable, accessible whole foods like eggs and let them serve as a sustainable foundation for your long-term health. Everything shared today is for educational purposes to help you navigate nutrition and diabetes management more clearly. Everybody is different, so specific dietary choices should always be tailored to your individual health profile in consultation with your healthcare provider. If you monitor your blood sugar regularly, rely on those readings as your most accurate personal guide. Eat thoughtfully, take care of yourself, and I will see you next time.